So, if you're a parent of a kid with ADHD, you've probably tried a lot of things, right? But this explainer, it's not going to be another method or a list of new techniques. We're going to offer something different, something we're calling a translation.
I mean, you've probably read all the books, you've set up the routines, you've tried the reward charts, you've done it all. And yet, there's still that feeling, isn't there? That feeling like you're missing a key piece of the puzzle, some kind of disconnect you just can't quite bridge. Look, I want you to know, all that effort and all that frustration, it's completely 100% valid.
And that's really the heart of what we're going to talk about. We're not here to add more stuff to your already overflowing to-do list. We're offering a new lens, a way to translate what your child is doing by understanding what it actually feels like to be them from the inside out. And let me tell you, that shift in perspective, it can be more powerful than any strategy you'll ever try.
All right, so let's start our journey right there, inside their world. Because all those behaviors we see on the outside, the fidgeting, the outbursts, the zoning out, that's just the tip of the iceberg. They're really just the echoes of a super complex and honestly often overwhelming internal reality.
Okay, and this is something that really challenges a huge assumption we all make. We see a quiet kid and we think, oh, they're calm or they're being so good. But for so many kids with ADHD, that quietness is actually an act of intense, exhausting containment. They're trying to manage this internal storm of racing thoughts, all the sounds around them, what they think you expect of them, all while just trying to look normal. It's just incredibly tiring work.
And it's so important to get this. ADHD isn't just a mind thing. It really, truly lives in the body. Your kid probably doesn't have the words for it. They can't say, "Mom, Dad, I feel this internal buzzing," but you better believe they feel it. It's this constant, restless energy, a physical tension, even when they're perfectly safe. And that leads to this bone-deep fatigue that has absolutely nothing to do with how much they've been playing outside.
Now this is such a game-changing metaphor. I want you to forget everything you've heard about attention being a muscle they just need to build up. Instead, think of it like gravity. For real. Some things, like a video game, have this massive gravitational pull. It just sucks them in, zero effort. But other things, like homework, it's like there's zero gravity. It just floats away. And this is exactly why telling them to just try harder doesn't just fail, it's actually damaging. It suggests they have a choice they don't really have, and that's where the shame starts to creep in.
Have you ever just been baffled by why your kid doesn't seem to get deadlines? Well, there's a name for it: time blindness. For their brain, time basically exists in two modes: now and not now. That's it. So ideas like next week or even in an hour are totally abstract. They don't feel real at all. The only time that not now task becomes real is when it comes crashing into the now moment, usually at the last second. And it's so crucial to see this isn't defiance. It's a completely different way of perceiving time.
And then there are the emotions. Oh boy. For a kid with ADHD, a tiny little frustration can go from 0 to 100, a total tidal wave of anger or sadness in just a few seconds. And please hear this. This isn't them being dramatic. It's a feature, not a bug, of a nervous system that just has less reliable brakes. And the heartbreaking part? After that emotional storm passes, they're often left feeling so confused and ashamed, asking themselves, why did I do that?
Okay, so we've taken a peek into their internal world. Now let's talk about what happens when that world crashes into the expectations of our world, because that's where so much of the conflict really starts.
Oh, this phrase right here. They can do it when they want to. It's probably one of the most damaging things we can think. We see them ace something on Tuesday, then completely fall apart on Wednesday, and we think it's about willpower. But here's the translation. What's changing isn't their motivation. It's their brain's ability to regulate itself. So it's not about inconsistent effort. It's about inconsistent access to the skills they already have. That's a huge difference.
And this just hits the nail on the head. Let's get one thing straight. Most kids with ADHD are incredibly motivated. They want so desperately to please the adults in their lives. They want to succeed. They want to be seen as good. The missing piece of the puzzle isn't motivation. It's regulation. And when we get that wrong, we create this awful psychological trap where they start believing they're just lazy, which is the farthest thing from the truth.
So that leads to a really big question, right? If it's not a motivation problem, then why does punishment so often seem to make things worse? Why does it backfire? Well, the answer isn't in their character, it's in their neurology.
It's actually a pretty simple and really predictable cycle. Think about it. A kid with ADHD is already running on an overloaded system. Punishment just piles more stress and more pressure onto that already overloaded system. And what happens when you add pressure? It completely crushes their already fragile ability to self-regulate, which ironically makes it even harder for them to do the very thing we're punishing them for not doing.
And hey, this isn't just about punishment. This applies to our calm, well-meaning advice too. When a child's brain is in that overload state, it's like a computer that's completely run out of RAM. The fan is whirring, nothing is loading. It doesn't matter how great your advice is, there is literally no space to process it. They aren't ignoring you on purpose. Their brain is just neurologically offline.
Okay, so we've kind of taken the problem apart. Now for the important part. How do we start building a bridge to their world? This next part is all about the big ideas, the core principles that create the emotional safety they need to actually connect with us and, grow.
Seriously, if you remember only one single thing from our whole conversation today, make it this: regulation before instruction. Always. Safety first, then learning. Trying to teach or correct or reason with a kid who's dysregulated, it's like trying to have a calm chat in the middle of a hurricane. It's just not going to work. The #1 priority has to be helping them find their calm again, period.
And here's why that matters so much. Before any chart, any routine, any strategy can ever work, your child has to feel deep in their bones that you believe them, that you believe their internal experience is real. The moment you validate their struggle, boom, the shame starts to lift, the trust gets deeper, and all of a sudden, they have the emotional fuel in the tank to actually try. Understanding doesn't make ADHD go away, but you know what it does? It erases the crushing loneliness that so often comes with it.
Our words are so powerful. They can either pour gasoline on that internal fire, or they can be like a cool drink of water. Think about it. These red light phrases, stop overreacting, you know better, they just question the child's reality and crank up the pressure. But green light phrases like, wow, that looks really hard, or just a simple, I believe you, they validate what's happening, they lower the pressure, and, this is key, they put you on the same team, working with them against the problem.
And honestly, this right here should be the guiding star for all of our communication. The #1 rule: avoid at all costs any statement that questions your child's intent. Phrases like "you're just doing this on purpose" or "you don't care" are absolutely devastating. Because the truth is, most kids with ADHD care so much, it actually hurts. When you question their intention, you're not just questioning their behavior, you're attacking the core of who they are.
Okay, let's zoom out for a second and talk about the long game. Because how we approach this, it's about so much more than just getting through today. It's about shaping the voice that will live inside their head for the rest of their lives.
And this distinction, it's absolutely critical. Structure helps, of course it does. It provides the external scaffolding their brain really needs. But shame destroys. It's a personal attack on their character. See, structure is about addressing the what, the behavior. Shame is about attacking the who, their very sense of self. And our biggest job as parents is to fiercely separate those two. Think about it. 20 years from now, your kid is not going to remember that specific argument about their homework. But what they will remember is the emotional pattern, that repeated feeling of being misunderstood, of being wrong. Over time, that feeling hardens into these core beliefs, and these beliefs become the quiet, constant soundtrack playing in the back of their minds for years, maybe even a lifetime.
You see so many incredibly successful adults with ADHD out in the world, but what you don't always see is the hidden toll they're carrying, this deep exhaustion from a lifetime of trying to mask their struggles, and a really harsh inner critic that never cuts them a break. And those are the scars. They aren't left by ADHD itself. They're left by a world that spent a lifetime judging their intentions instead of trying to understand their reality.
So, where does all this leave us? Well, it leaves us with a really powerful and, I think, forgiving truth. No parent is perfect. You're going to have moments of frustration. We all do. But what will truly shape your child's world isn't your perfection. It's your direction. It's the consistent effort to understand, the choice to believe them, the attempt to connect. That's the foundation. And that is what will allow them to build a healthy, resilient life for themselves.